If you're planning to move to Portugal on the D7 visa expecting citizenship in 5 years, you need to see this first. As of May 19, 2026, Portugal quietly rewrote its nationality law, and the citizenship timeline most guides still quote is now wrong. For most applicants, it just nearly doubled. My name is Vincent, and in this video, I'm breaking down exactly how Portugal's D7 passive income visa works in 2026, the real income numbers, what actually counts as passive income, the application process, and the citizenship timeline change that's caught a lot of people off guard. Let's get into it. The D7 visa, officially the passive income visa but often called Portugal's retirement visa, was introduced back in 2007 specifically to attract self-sufficient foreigners, people who spend and invest in Portugal's economy without competing with locals for jobs. Despite the retirement nickname, there's genuinely no age requirement at all. The entire program is built around one core idea: proving you have consistent passive income and won't become a financial burden on the state. It's open to non-EU, non-EEA, non-Swiss nationals. This includes Americans, British citizens post-Brexit, Canadians, Australians, South Africans, and Brazilians, among many others. Let's get straight to the number everyone's actually here for because it updates every year alongside Portugal's minimum wage. As of January 1st, 2026, you need to demonstrate stable passive income of at least €920 a month, working out to €11,040 annually for a single applicant. This figure is directly tied to Portugal's minimum wage, so it moves whenever that does. Bringing family changes the math, and it's worth understanding the multipliers rather than just one flat number. Your spouse adds 50% on top of the base requirement, bringing a couple's combined threshold to around €1,380 monthly, or roughly €16,560 a year for any couple. Each dependent child adds another 30%, so a couple with one child should plan around €1,656 monthly in combined passive income. Beyond the income itself, you also need Portuguese bank savings, and this is genuinely worth planning for separately. Most guidance now recommends holding savings in a Portuguese account equal to at least 12 months of your household's income requirement. So for a single applicant, that's around €11,040 sitting specifically in Portugal, not just anywhere in the world. This is genuinely worth understanding precisely because passive has a specific meaning here that trips people up. Qualifying sources include pension payments, rental income from property you own, dividends from investments, royalties from intellectual property, and interest from savings or bonds. The common thread across all of these is that the income has to come from outside Portugal and shouldn't require your active day-to-day work to generate. Here's the detail worth flagging clearly if you're a remote worker or freelancer. If your primary income comes from active employment or freelance work rather than genuinely passive sources, the D7 likely isn't your right visa. Portugal specifically built a separate track, the D8 Digital Nomad Visa, for that situation. It carries a meaningfully higher income threshold, around €3,680 monthly, but it's the correct legal category if your income is earned rather than passive. Applying for the D7 with active income dressed up as passive is a genuine red flag reviewers are trained to catch, so match your actual income source to the correct visa category from the start. Worth knowing too, rental incomes specifically can support a D7 application, but it needs solid documentation, signed leases or booking platform records showing it's genuinely recurring, not a one-off transaction you're presenting as ongoing income. Beyond the financial piece, a handful of other requirements round out your file. You need to be over 18 with a clean criminal record from your country of residence, secured accommodation in Portugal, either a signed lease or proof of property purchase, valid private health insurance covering you for the visa's initial stage before you're enrolled in Portugal's public system, and standard documentation including your passport and proof of your income sources with appropriate apostils where required. One detail worth genuinely planning around: tax residency in Portugal triggers once you spend 183 or more days there in a year, or establish habitual residence, and this can happen from day one depending on how you set things up. If your finances span multiple countries, it's worth mapping out your arrival date, lease start date, and income timing carefully in advance, specifically to avoid accidentally triggering double taxation in your first year. This is genuinely one area where getting professional tax advice before you move, not after, pays for itself. You apply for the D7 at the Portuguese consulate covering your country of residence, and the visa itself is initially issued for 2 entries into Portugal with 4 months of validity. It's your entry document, not your final residence status. Processing typically takes up to 60 days, though this varies by consulate and season. Once you're in Portugal on your D7 visa, the actual resident permit application happens locally, submitted to IMA, the Agency for Integration, Migration and Asylum, Portugal's immigration authority, which replaced the previous SEF agency. This is where a lot of the genuine friction in the D7 process has historically lived, since IMA processing backlogs have been a well-documented pain point for applicants over the past couple of years, so building buffer time into your plans here is genuinely sensible rather than optimistic. Your initial residence permit, once granted, is valid for 2 years, and it's renewable afterward for an additional 3-year period. One maintenance requirement worth tracking carefully throughout is you cannot be absent from Portugal for more than 6 consecutive months, or 8 non-consecutive months total across your permit's validity period. Exceed either limit and you risk losing your qualifying residence status entirely, which matters enormously for anyone thinking of this as a passport of convenience they'll rarely use in person. The D7 is genuinely one of the more family-friendly residence routes in Europe. You can include your spouse, whether in a registered marriage or a documented unregistered partnership, children under 18, unmarried and financially dependent children between 18 and 21, disabled children of any age who remain dependent, and in some circumstances, dependent parents as well. Every included family member needs to be genuinely financially dependent on the main applicant, and each addition adjusts your combined income requirement using the multipliers we covered earlier, so factor your full household into your financial planning from the outset, not just yourself. Here's the update that genuinely matters most if you're planning long-term, because it's recent enough that a lot of existing guides and forum advice haven't caught up yet. Under Organic Law Number 1 of 2026, in force since May 19, 2026, Portugal restructured its nationality requirements. Citizenship applications filed from that date onward now require 7 years of legal residence for citizens of EU countries and Portuguese-speaking nations, and 10 years of legal residence for everyone else, a meaningful jump from the 5-year path that made Portugal famous for immigration planners for years before this change. To be clear about your D7 specific journey regardless of this change, permanent residency remains available after 5 years of holding your D7-based resident permit, so that milestone is unaffected. What's changed specifically is the further step toward full citizenship, where you'd previously become eligible after that same 5-year mark for most applicants. Most non-EU, non-Portuguese-speaking D7 holders in 2026 are now looking at a full decade before citizenship eligibility. If Portuguese citizenship specifically was your end goal, this is genuinely worth factoring into your planning now, since it changes the total timeline meaningfully compared to what may have drawn you to Portugal originally. Worth clarifying directly, the D7 visa itself doesn't grant work authorization on its own, but once you convert it into an actual resident card after arriving in Portugal, that card does permit both employment and company formation. So in practice, most D7 holders end up with the ability to work locally if they choose to, even if the visa's underlying purpose is built around passive income rather than active employment. This makes the D7 genuinely flexible for people whose situation might evolve after arrival, even if it's not designed as a primary work visa pathway from the outset. So here's the practical bottom line. Portugal's D7 remains a genuinely accessible, comparatively affordable route into European residency for anyone with real passive income, modest thresholds, family-friendly inclusion rules, and eventual permanent residency still on the same 5-year timeline it's always had. Just go in with updated expectations on citizenship specifically, since that timeline changed meaningfully in May 2026, and make sure your income genuinely qualifies as passive before you apply, rather than discovering the mismatch during review. If this was useful, subscribe for more residency breakdowns like this one, and let me know in the comments which country's visa you want me to cover next.